Good day, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have with us Sumair Sayani. Came to Canada 2014, and though he has a different background by education, but transitioned into something totally different, and we will talk to him about that. So, if you can kindly get started by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Assalamu alaikum, Saad. Thank you for having me. It's kind of you to think that I may have something meaningful and useful to contribute. I'll let you and the people who are going to listen to the conversation decide. But the question, how do I get to where I am? So the way I understand it is kind of maybe first talking about where I am, like from a functional perspective, and then kind of focus more on, I think, some of the other behavioral and other decisions that I took and why I made those decisions, which led me to where I am. Kind of, I think that could be probably more interesting for your audience.
Absolutely.
So, Jeep, Pakistan, Karachi, basically, and not a very bright student. My mom was not very sure, if I'm gonna make something out of my life or not. I think what happened with most boys, but somehow I found myself in doing CA, Chartered Accountancy from Pakistan, from Ferguson. And the motivation there was to make quick bucks because that was the path to make a lot of money quickly in Pakistan. And then luckily I got a job after completing my CA in a group in Luxembourg, where apparently they only used to hire Pakistani CAs, and that happened because there was a guy who got somebody from Pakistan, and then that guy brought the rest of the guys from Pakistan as well, and that kept on going for a while. So I moved to Luxembourg, but it was a job traveling all over the world. So traveled more than 40 countries, learned different languages, alhamdulillah. So that was a great learning experience. And then from there, I transitioned into a role for a global company based out of the Netherlands. Spent there 3 years, got married just before I took that job. And then within that company, I moved from Netherlands to the US for a couple of years and Dubai, and then to Canada. And then my last role with them was basically to lead a think tank out of New York. और उसके बाद just something happened, and I maybe we can talk a little bit more about it, but I decided to do a startup. And as it happened, I found myself working towards as I was trying to figure out how to solve the problem, I figured out that the way to do it is to build a company around AI and build AI models. So from finance to think tanks to then AI. So, alhamdulillah, it worked out. I sold it last year, and now I'm working with the guys as part of the deal, leading their global AI programs and strategy and also partnerships. But I think more interesting than that is how, right? I think that to me has always been the key phenomenon, the key focus. And so I was lucky, I think, and most people are obviously would say that there's a luck obviously plays a huge part. In my case, alhamdulillah, obviously, I think it played a much bigger part than most. But I was lucky in the sense that I had two wonderful women in my life when I was born who were already given to me by Allah, and that was a big blessing. One was my nanny, and one was my mom, and they used to have these one-liners, right? My nanny used to have these one-line anecdotes, right? Always about life, about leadership, about how to grow yourself. And my mom, being a literary person, so she is a poet, she's a published poet and writer. She always used to tell us as kids, different share. And I'm imagining your audience is probably going to understand Urdu and Urdu shar. So my mom used to say as a kid, when we were kids, that एक नुक्ता बैत को मंजिल करार दे और दीवाना वार उसकी तरफ दौड़े जा. Right? So basically, the idea was think big, have a bigger goal, bigger vision, and then just focus on how you want to get there, right? And the way I kind of articulated that in my life was obviously try to think big, try to think out of the box, try to think, what is different, what is the next big thing. But also the biggest thing I would say that helped me propel in my career and kind of lend me into all of these different wonderful alhamdulillah experiences was the power of saying yes. So whenever a new opportunity came along knocking at the door, even though I was not even sure how I'm going to do it, I said yes. And let's try it out. Like, what's the worst that could happen, right? Although now I'm older, and probably I won't say as much yes now as I used to, although I still do. But that to me was, I think, was the biggest factor that helped me grow and take on some very, very different, also kind of different roles. And if you want to know some of those, I can talk more about it.
Well, absolutely. But one thing I absolutely agree with you, the power of saying yes and sometimes not knowing exactly what you're signing up yourself for. But if the challenge is big enough, it makes a big. But you talked about entrepreneurship, and you know how and I think the last company that you sold was AI-centric, and I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. The one before that was also AI-centric. So I think you picked on the wave a little bit earlier on as to the AI push. Moving on forward, we were talking about this earlier, but where do you see this wave handling towards, and um, and how do you think it's going to actually impact all the new in the students and young forces that's going to come out into the market? How are they going to position themselves in all of this, and what should they be doing?
Quite honestly, if you ask me, so from what I'm seeing, um, I think this this is the best times that we are living in from for young kids, for kids who are just coming out of university, or even who are those are in university or getting into universities, because just because of the how easy it is now to access uh, technology, how easy it is to leverage technology, right? And how much open the market is now to accept and try new technologies, new ideas. So, and this is what I tell my kids, that this is the time to literally think about, if you can think of a problem that you can solve, and you don't need to solve world hunger, right? You can think about breaking it down and thinking about micro problems that you can solve, because that's where the opportunities lie, I think, in the future. So my view is that this is the best time. It's incumbent upon our community really to make the most of and quite honestly, being in Canada, I think is a wonderful opportunity. There is so much, it's so easy to start things. It's so easy to get access to, a lot of assets that you need to be able to do things. It's the environment is such that which helps supports in the right way these kind of initiatives. And so I feel that this has to be done. Now again, I go back to the personality traits, right? What are the things that you need to build in yourself? If you don't have it, consciously work to build in yourself to be able to be successful. Is it because you know very few startups are successful, right? We all know it, and there are many, many, many different reasons. But the fact that just to make that transition, just to make that decision, I mean, I talked about having two women in my life, early on, and then later on, I got another one who's my wife,
I
who
was
who
wondering,
said,
you forgot the most important one.
no, I mean, I would not have started my company, and I would probably not have been successful unless I was supported by the other woman in my life, which is, my wife, for sure. I mean, so so I think obviously partnership, your ecosystem around you is very important. So how do you build a strong ecosystem of support network around you, starting with your own family, obviously, if that's where you are in your life stage, or your friends, or your, the folks around you. So I think build a good network. The second thing is be open to unlearn and learn, right? That to me, I think is critical, because as we grow older, we kind of get used to doing things in a certain way or seeing things in a certain way. So you've got to be ready to challenge the norm and say, okay, you know what? I don't accept the way things are. It could be better, right? The third thing I would say is that always be ready to give as much as you want to take, right? And obviously I'm not, this is not my quote. This is Adam Grant who talked about it, right? Give and take. So the more you give along the way, eventually you're gonna get it back, right, in other forms. So, and Saad, I know that this is something that I think probably Adam Grant looked at you when he I'm sure you have not read the book. You did not read the book. I think Adam Grant probably looked at you to write the book. If he has not, he should quote your example as well, mashallah, because that's what you're doing, right? I don't think you are doing all this. You're giving because you want to take. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and that should be the mindset. That do it because it's the right thing to do because you feel that you have the opportunity. Allah has given you the chance to do something, to contribute, and you're doing it just for that reason itself, right?
Absolutely.
So I think those are some of the more, I think from a personality trait perspective that our kids should be.
Normally, the second question I asked you, I asked as the last question. So I'll ask my second last question now, which was about you mentioned about your AI startup. So briefly, a little bit about for the audience benefit. What is your last AI set company or the current one that you are in? And it might be something might be confidential or whatever you feel comfortable with sharing.
Right. So I just to get a bit of context before I say that, because people need to understand what the hell am I talking about. So I spent 17 years with a company called Nielsen, which is all about consumer research. Why do consumers do what they do? Why do they buy certain things? Why do I pick up red socks? Although I don't pick up red socks, but let's say if I do, why the hell am I picking red, not blue or white, right? So the way that it has traditionally been done since the dawn of time is to basically ask do surveys, right? And the challenge was that I felt that because of the all this new data that is out there and so much new data, that unstructured be it unstructured, that I felt that there's got to be more ways in which we can really understand what truly drives behavior, right? The consumer behavior and decisions. So basically, that was the problem I wanted to solve. I did not start with the mindset of setting up an AI company. As I discovered and seek the answer, it led me to AI and said that's the way to answer the question. So basically, build models to understand what consumers say. What are the underlying undercurrents there from what they're saying, how they're saying it, and how they move their body gesture. If I cross my arms while talking to you, it means I'm not very open right now, right? My gesture is not very open. Versus if I'm standing like this, the way I'm standing, it means I'm very open to sharing and I feel very comfortable in talking to some, like most people do. So I think those are the kind of things that we try to capture through different ways and form and try to make sense of it from an analytical and insights perspective.
Absolutely.
That was the company that I built and I sold, and now I'm with this company and we are building a lot of AI products, but all of it around consumer research, market research.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. And there's so many things that you touched upon, and everything in itself is a big chapter in itself. And hopefully, sometime in the future, we will pick your brains for some of the other deep dives in certain topics. But thank you for today, at least.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And I said, if anything, can be of value to somebody, I'd be very happy. And obviously, you were the enabler.
Thank you.